I call to order the Rosemount Planning Commission regular meeting for Tuesday, May 26th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic
stands
which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice
for all. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic and in order to practice social distancing, all Planning Commission meetings will be held virtually until further notice. We will be using a platform called Zoom. This platform is free for the public and can be accessed via a computer, laptop, tablet, or phone. Citizens can watch and participate in a variety of ways. For specific details to participate in this meeting, please view the calendar page on the city's website. You will notice that we will be doing a few things differently due to the virtual format. Commissioners will raise their hand physically or via the Zoom app to speak, and I will call on them. This includes making a motion and seconding it. When appropriate, I will make motions to help keep things streamlined and moving forward. All votes will be done by roll call led by Stacy. During the audience input and public hearing portion of the meeting, the public will be able to speak using the microphone on their device, if using the Zoom web app or their phone. Staff will respond to public questions during the public hearing. This is normally not done until the end of the public hearing, but due to the different format, we are going to answer them as we go. Letters, emails that were received tonight as part of the public comment will be reviewed at the beginning of each public hearing item. If you are participating online during the meeting, you will have the option to use the raise hand feature during portions of tonight's meeting. Staff will call on you at the appropriate time. When you enter the meeting, you are asked to register by entering your name and email address. Please enter your first name and last name so moderators can call on you to speak. This information, along with your address, will be required at the start of your public comment. Should you call into the meeting, we will also call on you and ask if you'd like to speak. When you are called on, you will be able to unmute your phone and speak if you'd like, and then remute your phone. After you're done speaking, you can exit the meeting by clicking on Leave Meeting or hang up the phone, and you can continue to watch the meeting on TV or online. As with our normal meetings, we want to give everyone an opportunity to speak and ask that each person speak only once. We ask that you have your comments prepared and are ready for when you speak. If you would like to respond to something after you speak, you may do so, but we ask that you keep your response focused and not to reiterate comments you've already made. I will cover these instructions again when we get to the public hearing portion. If you are having any issues with the meeting tonight, please use the chat to communicate with us. This is a different format for all of us, and we appreciate your support as we learn together. Okay, moving on with the first item on our agenda this evening is additions to the agenda. Are there any additions to tonight's agenda?
No, they're not.
Thank you. At this time, it is the audience input section. If there is any input from the audience that is not on the agenda and not on the public hearing section, you may raise your hand at this time and you will be called on to speak. Anthony, do you see anybody wanting to speak?
Nope.
Okay. We will move forward with the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Are there any comments or questions from the commissioners on the consent agenda? This includes the approval of the May 12th meeting minutes and a request by Builder Jones for final plat approval of Doolin Heights. Seeing no comments or questions, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Reed seconds the motion. Stacy, will you take roll?
Rivera.
Aye.
Schmezek.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Marlowe.
Aye.
Vanderweel.
Aye.
Kenninger.
Aye. Motion passes. The next section on our agenda this evening is our public hearings, and the first item on here is a request by KJ Walk for a comprehensive plan amendment, rezoning, plan unit development, master development, and final site and building plan, and preliminary and final plat approval for a simple plat associated with the Rosewood Commons Hotel, senior living mixed use and memory care development. This item is going to be continued this evening. So in a moment, I will make a motion and ask that the commission continue this item. We are continuing it to allow staff to meet with the developer further to work out some issues that exist with the proposed project. And we will be continuing this item to the June 23rd meeting. And it is at that time on the June 23rd meeting that we will hear comments from any members of the community and the public that would like to speak on this item. Also, you may send in comments to city staff if you would like, if you are unable to attend the June 23rd meeting, or if you would like to send in comments, even if you can attend June 23rd. So with that, I will make a motion to continue this item to the June 23rd meeting.
Second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Schmezek. Stacy, will you take roll?
Kenninger,
Aye.
Vanderwill,
Aye.
Marlowe,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Schmezek,
Aye.
Rivera.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. I apologize. I should have asked for comments on that before I made a motion, but given all your votes, it appears you were all in favor. So thank you for doing that. Again, that item will be continued to our June 23rd Planning Commission meeting at 6:30 p.m. And Kim, at this point in time, is that meeting planned to be at council chambers? Did I read that correctly?
Madam Chair, I think we are probably going to have it in the chambers. We're looking at maybe doing a hybrid where people can still Zoom if they're uncomfortable. It hasn't been fully worked out yet because I think we will also be looking at limiting the amount of people in attendance at the meetings. So stay tuned. The council will be having their first formal meeting in the council chambers next Tuesday. So hopefully by the time we're at the end of June, all the bugs will be worked out. So I think it's a combination.
Sounds good. Thank you. I just wanted to get that out there for anyone listening this evening. Okay, the next item on our agenda is in our public hearing section is a zoning ordinance text amendment to section 11-12-2. And I will turn this over to Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a zoning ordinance text amendment that staff is proposing to update one of the findings that must be made to grant a variance by the Board of Appeals and Adjustments. Of course, the commission knows that the Planning Commission acts as the Board of Appeals and Adjustments when making decisions on requests like variances. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of background here. I think it was pretty clear the attachment with this item was an informational packet or memo from the League of Minnesota Cities, which I thought was a pretty good explainer for the background on why our ordinance is written the way it is. But I'm just going to kind of reiterate some of those facts and talk about what the updated or what the amendment would be for this. Can everyone see my screen? I should ask first.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so as I said, the Planning Commission is being asked to consider an amendment to the zoning ordinance that would update the finding. This is specifically related to the reasonableness of a variance. The Board of Appeals and Adjustments, when it's deciding on whether to approve a variance or not, it must make 5 findings, and the 2 first findings that must be made are kind of related, that the request is in harmony with the purposes and intents of the zoning ordinance, and also that the variance request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And those 2 are not changing. Additionally, there are 3 prongs of the practical difficulties test. They are whether those 3 prongs are reasonableness, uniqueness, and essential character. And those basically relate to the proposal is a reasonable request or a reasonable use of the property. The request is due to unique circumstances related to the site generally, and then also that it will not change or alter the essential character of the locality. So some of the variances that have come before the Planning Commission in the past year or so, I'm trying to think of one which would have been, say, a variance from the side yard setback for a garage. The Planning Commission found that it was in harmony with the purposes and intent of the ordinance. It was consistent with the comprehensive plan as far as the use of the site. And then there were unique circumstances, and this was that the property owner was having trouble siting their garage while still being able to make use of existing driveway access points, and that it didn't really alter the essential character. The finding that staff is recommending be updated is that up until now, or the current zoning ordinance requires the Board of Appeals and Adjustments to find that granting of the variance allows reasonable use of the property. Well, following a 2020 decision made by the Supreme or 2011 decision made by the Supreme Court that took away the authority of municipalities to approve variances, the state legislature passed a bill that restored that authority. It changed what was originally an undue hardship test to practical difficulties. And then specifically in the case that the Supreme Court ruled on, they interpreted the reasonableness prong of it to mean that, but for the variance, the property owner would have reasonable use. So it was more strict and very narrowly defined. And so the new statute, what the intent of it was to say that what the property owner is proposing is reasonable and not completely out of line with what one would expect for the use of the property. So staff is proposing that the third finding that currently states granting of the variance allows reasonable use of the property be updated to the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, which is more in line with what the League of Minnesota Cities is their guidance on this matter. I can take some questions. I know it's a public hearing, so if there are anyone that wants to speak, you certainly can open it up to them.
Thank you, Anthony. Are there any comments or questions from the commission for staff?
Yeah, so one question, Anthony.
Yeah.
You cited that example, I think it was at rural residential, right? And he wanted to put a garage that was not adhering to the side yard setbacks, right? And the neighbor didn't like that idea. Is that the one you're referring to?
Mm-hmm.
Would the change to this in any way change the way that would have come before the commission?
No, it would still have been something that would be coming before the commission. It would be discussed. There'd be a public hearing just like any other variance. So it doesn't really change the process. It just clarifies the factors or the findings that the Board of Appeals and Adjustments would have to make in order to justify their decision.
Got it. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions for staff? Okay, this item is a public hearing item this evening. We will open the public hearing at this time. I will review the instructions for how you can speak through this virtual format in a moment. When you are speaking, please start by stating your name and address for the record. To speak on this item, if you're using the Zoom web application, you can click on the words raise hand and you will be called on when it's your turn and you will be able to unmute your microphone and speak. If you've called in on the phone, we will call on you to speak. And at that time, you can unmute your phone and speak, and then please make sure you mute your phone again. So at this time, we will open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak may raise their hand at this time.
Madam Chair, I don't see anyone wishing to speak.
Thank you. I will make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Reed seconds the motion. Stacy, please take roll.
Keister,
Aye.
Vanderbilt,
Aye.
Marlowe,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Schmezek,
Aye.
Rivera.
Aye.
The motion passes. The public hearing is now closed. Any final comments or questions from the commission before we move forward with this item this evening? Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion to recommend that the City Council approve the amendment to Section 11-12-2 Board of Appeals and Adjustment Procedures. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rivera. And Stacy, will you take roll?
Henninger,
Aye.
Vanderweel,
Aye.
Marlowe,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Mazik,
Aye.
Rivera.
Aye.
Motion passes. This item will move forward to the City Council meeting, which is scheduled at this point in time for June 16th. And that concludes our public hearing section this evening. Moving on to old business, we have a zoning ordinance text amendment to Section 11-2-15, single-family detached dwelling requirements to modify the maximum area of attached garages. And this was continued from our previous meeting on May 12th, was when we met. And this item has been continued from that meeting, and I will turn it over to Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you stated, this was previously reviewed by the Planning Commission, and a public hearing was held. No public comments were received on this item, and the Planning Commission closed the public hearing. So just to recap a little bit about what the proposed amendment is, I'm just going to do a very, very brief review of this proposal. Okay. Can you see my screen just to verify?
We can see it.
Okay. So initially the staff came to the Planning Commission, asked the Planning Commission to consider an amendment that would increase the maximum area to 2,000 square feet. It also changed from just a straight up 1,000 square foot maximum, but really allowed the maximum area of the garage to be based on the size of the house. And that would make sure that the primary use of the structure is for living versus having a garage maybe overtake the living area of the house as far as gross floor area goes. Staff did recommend that keeping a minimum in there or a maximum in there of 1,000 square feet, just so that any houses that maybe were already built and fall below that minimum 1,000 square foot size that we currently require for all single family homes, that their rights to their property wouldn't be reduced through the amendment before you today. Again, these requests have mostly come from builders of homes, custom homes in the rural residential area on larger lots. We aren't seeing this really be something that is coming in the newer developed areas. The minimum gross floor area for a home, as I said, is 1,000 square feet. And that doesn't necessarily mean the footprint. That's the gross floor area would be if it's got a finished basement, a main level, a second level. It's all of those areas combined. And so just that's a little bit of background on that. And as I said, we really just want to make sure that someone could build a garage and it maybe could be a little bigger than 1,000 square feet while still being smaller than the actual living area in the house, or equal to or smaller. So originally staff had proposed an amendment. The feedback we received from the commission was that it's a little clunky, could maybe be clarified. Maybe the 2,000 square feet isn't quite what the number that we would land on. And it kind of seemed like it was combining two components here. So following the public hearing held by the Planning Commission at the last meeting, staff did come up with a more refined amendment to the zoning ordinance. So therefore, the staff is proposing that the footprint of an attached garage is a maximum of 1,000 square feet, but can be increased to a maximum of 1,500 square feet, so long as the garage does not exceed 50% of the gross floor area of the principal building, garage and living area combined. So it's still, it's not just a very short, concise, single sentence, simple sentence, but staff feels like this kind of reflects the feedback we received, as well as kind of clarifying what that means for someone looking to build a home here in Rosemount. I know there was some conversation at the last meeting, so I'd be happy to hear any further feedback the commission might have with regards to this proposed amendment.
Thank you, Anthony. Are there any comments from the commission or questions? Yes,
And
Commissioner Schmezek. Oh, go ahead, Anthony.
I just did want to reiterate too, as I said at the last meeting, there are no other changes to any other lot standards being proposed with this amendment. Therefore, a major limiting factor for a lot of lots in Rosemount would be the existing lot cover maximums and side yard setbacks and things like that.
Sounds good. Commissioner Schmezek.
Read my mind. You just answered my question.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Okay. Seeing none, I will make a motion to recommend the City Council approve the text amendment to the zoning ordinance modifying the single-family detached dwelling requirements regarding the maximum allowable size for attached garages. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Schmezek. Stacy, will you take roll?
Rivera,
Aye.
Schmezek,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Marlowe,
Aye.
Vanderwill,
Aye.
Kenninger.
Aye. Motion passes. This item will move forward to the City Council meeting on June 16th. And that concludes our old business section for this evening. The next item on the agenda is discussion. Is there anything for the discussion section?
No, just as we'd mentioned, that the next meeting in June will probably be a combination of the two, and we'll try to get you better instructions afterward or before the meeting. And I guess also if people individually are uncomfortable about meeting in person, also let us know and we can adjust accordingly to meet guidelines for spacing and other things.
Thank you. And Kim, if residents should have questions on it, I know we will probably get communication via email or our packet on the location, but if residents have questions, they can contact the city and watch the website.
Yes, certainly under the calendar section on the website, we always have, like now while they're doing the Zoom meetings, they have the link. So there'll be instructions there. So if you know the date, we'll definitely be having that information at some point. Again, the council will already meet in person. And so I think we'll have to work out some of the bugs to understand limiting attendance or the audience or that type of thing, depending on the items that would be on the agenda and how many people want to speak.
Sounds good. And our next meeting is June 23rd. So
Yes.
again, the 23rd of June. Anything else for discussion? Any discussion items from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Schmezek.
Maybe just a quick question on that meeting. Kim, when you're kind of thinking about this, are you still thinking at that point in time about social distancing and the viability of doing that? And I'm sure you'll put the plan together and let us kind of know how all that's going. But just a quick question.
Yeah, Commissioner, under the governor's declaration, he does request that only 10 people are in attendance or gather at one time, but there is an exception for city council meetings and associated commission meetings. So because just the board itself, like we'd be about the 10. So then, what do you do? So we are going to try to work on that a little bit, both with staff, but then also there might be something where we actually only allow a few attendees at a time, or certainly have chairs set up in the audience that are a certain distance is probably the number one thing. I think it, again, is very dependent. Many of our meetings are not well attended, but then some really are. And so it's hard to gauge how that'll work.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for staff or any other discussion items?
I just had one quick question. Is City Hall requiring visitors to wear masks currently? And I know things will change, but just curious for the next meeting.
Yeah, Commissioner, they're encouraged but not required.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Okay, seeing none, I will adjourn the Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, May 26th. Meeting adjourned.